MC, the ruler lord. To him there is no equal. He grabbed grenades and starts bombing people. Don't listen to me to figure me out, because you can't turn my mind inside out. Latifah is the name you love, flying through rhymes like a dove, slapping suckers with a glove. Challenge me and you will burn. Yes, in the fire you will burn. Rhyming's not a question of one's superiority, but rather how you delegate the use of your authority. I know who you are, and I know who you are to me, but I can't.
Ooh, Harry, that's a goodie, an oldie and a goodie. It's Queen Latifah. She sounds young. Ooh, happy Monday, beautiful people. Welcome back to LoveBabz, LoveTalk. I got a guest up first thing this morning. I'm delighted. Tammy Winfrey Harris, as a matter of fact. You know, she wrote The Sisters Are All Right and Dear Black Girl. She's back with another powerful book called A Black Woman's Guide to Getting Free. We're going to get free today, y'all. I have the book. I thought it was going to be a big, giant encyclopedia because it's going to take a lot to get us free, but maybe not. So she'll be out at 9:15 to talk about what needs to happen, you know, and how we do this thing. So we'll see what happens. And she's got some, you know, she just don't come with a book. In the book, it's got all kinds of things that you could do, rituals and you know, how to get free, how to stay free, and some anecdotal stuff. So, you know, I want you to get into it. So anyway, I hope everybody had a good weekend. You know, my weekend started on Thursday, and you know, this week was no different. There's a lot going on. A lot. I went out, hung out, and did some cool stuff, as I always do. Hang out, get some cool stuff in. So today's the 24th, so Thursday was the 20th. I went up to Hartford to see Bill Graustein and them get an award. The Community Leadership Program get an award. That was fun. I've never been to the Yard Goat Stadium. Swanky. Nice. Very nice. Very nice. And so was there for that on Thursday. Friday, curated some wine for Influence, Shermont Little, so that he could do his thing that he did at the Bricks the other night, a poetry salon meetup. So I heard that was happening. Went out to dinner with my besties, and on Friday we went to Chef Jang's right there on Whitney Avenue, like right there around the corner from Audubon. You know, and it's got a real cool old school 70s vibe to it. You know, 70s lounge, cool as hell. Food was amazing. And so we had some dinner there, sat out the rain because it was raining. It rained. Woo, it rained. So we sat out the rain because there was a concert on the green that got canceled because of the thunderstorms and lightning and all that kind of stuff. So that was kind of cool. And then Ife and I went to see Amigod, and it was lovely. It was a wonderful, wonderful show, production, play. And I'll talk more about it tomorrow. But that's what I did Friday. Saturday, woohoo! I made my way to I had some breakfast. I started my day at breakfast with Manharis because I had some errands to run. And then I went over to the Juneteenth New Haven Festival, which was spread out between Dixwell Q House all the way over to Ashland, and with Wexler in between. So they were out there, took over all the outside space. That was fun. I spent way too much money. Way too much money. Worth it though. So many good vendors. I bought some good stuff, I must say. So I had a good time. I had a really good time. And then Sunday, I had to dial it back. There was some stuff that I was invited to, couldn't get to. I just had to sit down. I just had to dial it back. And you just have to make these choices in your life, you know. And I got people who I really wanted to see Sunday, you know, but my body was like, girl, get somewhere, sit down. So I just was like, let me chill. I'm chilling. I'm chilled. And then you know, friends dropped by. Ife came by, Tina came by, Tony came by. Zanaya's mom. Jonathan stopped by once, twice, because he had an event to go to. And Lauren came by because we gonna work on a little project together to continue with continuing the little library, which I must say the little library is a real hit. Can I just tell you, the little library is a real hit. And it's just been amazing to watch folks and the books that are in it, and people have come by and put books in it, so it's been really nice. So just, you know, it's a good time. So that was my weekend. The usual have a good time, hang out, happiness over everything weekend. It was great. It was great. It was great. It was great. So now I'm just chilling out, waiting for my girl Tammy Winfrey to pop on in a minute and chat it up a little bit about you know, what's to come. And this wonderful book that she put out, you know, and I'm excited by that. And tonight I'm going to the Connecticut Critics Awards, because Long Wharf Theater's got a gazillion nominations. So hopefully we'll win something tonight. We could all pop champagne and cheer, cheer, cheer. So we'll see we'll see what happens, child. We'll see what happens. And you know, that's what's up. That is what's up. So, um, so I'm just waiting for my girl to come on and see what happens. And you know, talk with her about her book. So I know I yeah, because she's I think she's in the Midwest, right? I think that's I think that's I think that's like an hour behind us, maybe. So we'll see. But the last time I had her on the show, now I talked to her because we try to check in periodically. But the last time I had her on the show was 2021 for Dear Black Girl. So, so that was a minute ago to be on the show. I've talked to her since, like we've had conversations. And it's funny because I had just mentioned to her, I said, we have to catch up. And then I get her publicist sends me a note saying, she's got this book out. Let me book her on. Yeah, of course. Of course, absolutely. So here she is. So we'll just wait a few minutes and listen, I'm already here. I'm here. I'm doing what I do. Happy Monday. Happy Monday, people. And that's what we're gonna do. That's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna keep the train moving. I hope everybody had a good weekend. And because that rain, that storm, man, I think some parts of Connecticut got the tornado. I hope we never have that again in New Haven and Hampton again. Oh, I remember that last one when I was a young woman. I walked from Hampton to New Haven. I was like, this was and we were in it. We was stayed in the building, and when you went out, it looked like a war zone. I was like, man, that's a that's a mess. So so I hope people um are doing all right in Connecticut. I haven't watched too much of the news uh to uh to really know how people are faring. So I'm hoping that folks are well. Do you know what I mean? Like I hope folks are well. And you know, Here she comes. She is coming in. It's going to be nice to catch up and talk and, say hi. What's happening? All the stuff that we do. You know how Black women do when we get together, we ain't see nobody, in a minute.
Like now?
Like now, girl. Hey, girl. Hey! Are you out here writing books?
How are you?
I'm good. Last time I was trying to remind the audience, it was 2021 when you were Dear Black Girls. That was the last time you were on the show. But we've talked since then.
We have, but it's still been too long.
I know. Last time I talked, you and your husband were going to a cabin somewhere, your annual cabin, or
Ooh, we sure were. Ooh,
yes.
I need to go back.
And you was trying to convince me about how good it was. I was like,
you're
like, girl, I don't know.
You were skeptical, right?
Like, girl, I don't know about all that, but all right, if you say so, Tammy, I'm with you. So, what started this? I want to know. I saw it. I'm gonna tell you something. I saw it and I was like, man, I need to call her. And as soon as I said that, your publicist sent me an email saying, oh yeah, the book is out and do you want to have her on? Of course I want to have her on.
Yeah.
And, tell me about this, ma'am.
So, it really is an outgrowth of my previous two books. Because, in those previous books, I talked a lot about the stereotypes that have followed Black women over the years. In Dear Black Girl, I asked Black women to write vulnerable letters to younger women. But, I was doing a book event for Dear Black Girl here in Indianapolis, and someone in the audience, one of the lines I say in the last, in the epilogue to Dear Black Girl is, we will get free together. Young women, girls, women, we will get free together. And someone was like, well, how are we supposed to do that? Because all this, racism is still here. Sexism is still here. We're losing our rights. Like, we got to live in this every day. So how are we supposed to get free? This book is an answer to that. This book is how we get free.
Wow. That's pretty. I'm glad that you heard it, right? Because you could have just acted like you didn't hear it and answered you know what I mean? Like self-care. You just said self-care and be
Go
nice
get a
to
manicure,
each other.
girl.
And,
right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People say stuff like that. Like, all right. Okay. So you heard it. And I think you're right. It is following along with The Sisters Are All Right and then Dear Black Girl. And so now we've got Black Woman's Guide to Getting Free. So Tammy, what did you hear when you started writing this? How did you frame this out? Like, how did you think about the ways in which we get free? What kind of research did you do? Who did you talk to?
So one of the things, I was very much influenced by my journey to become, I during COVID, during lockdown, I took my 200-hour yoga teacher training. Believe it or not, I was on my mat, I was learning, I was reading sutras and the Bhagavad Gita and all of those things. But there's this idea in yoga that I thought was very relevant to Black women today. And the idea, Patanjali, who wrote the Yoga Sutras, which is sort of the defining work of yoga, his idea is that we are all spirits having a human experience.
Mm-hmm.
We are divine beings having a human experience. But the problem is that we don't know that's what we are, because we mistake all these things that are happening around us for the truth and for our reality. And as I was reading that, I was like, isn't that kind of like the Black femme experience? Because we are divine beings. We are amazing. We are, as I said in my first book, we are all right the way we show up in the world. But that can easily get twisted in our heads because of everything that's around us.
Oh yeah, so much of things that tell us we not.
That what we're not and what we're not doing correctly and what we need to fix. And so the first step in getting free is being able to recognize all of that wrong input that you're getting and separate it from yourself.
I like that because the book is broken down into two parts. Part one is what is freedom, and chapter one is you are already all right. Chapter two is I wish I knew how it would feel to be free, and chapter three is freedom rituals. And I love that you give us some rituals because we are people that like to do stuff. Whether if we're casting spells or lighting whatever it is, we got to have a ritual and a color coordinated kind of thing to it. So talk a little bit about when you were working on the what is freedom. How did you think about this, and how did you narrow it down to just 3 chapters? Because I know you could have had 20.
That part was hard. I was like, how do I get to the good stuff? How you get to freedom if you don't, you can't go somewhere if you don't know where you're going. Like you can't even set your GPS if you don't know the address. So if you don't know what freedom is, you get there. And I wasn't sure that I could describe it in a way that would resonate with everyone. And it finally hit me that the reason is because freedom is very personal. And so what I needed to do in those first 3 chapters is not tell the reader what freedom is, but kind of guide the reader in figuring out what freedom is for you. Because it can be the same thing as it is for me. And you can't move from a place of freedom until you figure it out.
Oh, I love that. So did you learn some stuff about freedom that you didn't know about your own self? Like, did you oh, you know what? Yeah.
I did. And that is, there's a woman, Brie Rivera, in the book says something about, she talks about realizing at one point in her life that the freedom, what you hope for other people in your community is true for you as well. She's a trans woman and she was working so hard on behalf of her community. She felt tired and burned out. And she realized, I'm always talking about this Black trans joy, and I'm not feeling it myself. And so I had a few aha moments in writing this book. You also can't be free if you don't believe that you deserve freedom. And that means taking care of yourself, really taking care of yourself and honoring your body and your mind. And there were a lot of points in writing this book where I wasn't really doing that because I was trying to achieve things. I was trying to do my job and I was trying to write the book and I was trying to do all of this other stuff. So that was a realization for me. And that's really where that freedom ritual chapter came from, is that wait a minute, we better slow down and talk about how we value ourselves and care for ourselves before we go on a freedom journey.
Yeah, because it's in our DNA not to take care of ourselves.
Exactly.
And then when we start to take care of ourselves, we feel guilty. Like we literally feel guilty about putting ourselves on our own calendars. Well, I could be doing something else. Well, what's more important than you?
But that goes back to all that negative stuff that swirls around. Very often we feel guilty because people make us feel guilty.
Yeah.
Now, part of that is our own stuff, but people, girl, you could just, other people will make you feel guilty.
Yeah, that passive aggressive stuff. And they do it with a smile and a wink and a laugh. And you're like, okay, I guess I could show up for this thing or do this thing or be this thing. Before you know it, you're like, Lord Jesus, I'm so tired. Right? That's
yes, exactly.
Okay, so I love this. Ooh, I just took myself off video. Sorry about that.
Gorgeous picture though.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So then the second part of the book is the practice of liberation. I have a good friend, Ife, who loves to speak into existence liberation. Whenever she hits a milestone or walks away from something, liberation. Yeah. So you have the practice of liberation. Chapter 4, spot the distortions. Chapter 5 is know your truth. Chapter 6, celebrate the real you. Chapter 7, understand the cost of liberation. Girl, I already know. And chapter 8 is the practice freedom. And chapter 9, see free Black women everywhere. Oh, you have got to talk about all these little chapters right here. Because man, that's the chapters alone, the titles alone got me like salivating.
So, I mean, really quickly, we said the first step is seeing all these distorted pictures of Black women, even in the places, even coming from people who say they love you. Because sometimes the institutions and people that say they love us can be complicit in drilling those things into our heads, like being self-sacrificing and working yourself too hard. So you have to see that, and then you have to identify who you are separate from all of that, because very often we spend a lot of time either leaning into those stereotypes or trying to outrun them. So if you take all that away, who are you?
Yes, I
And
love
then,
that.
yeah. And then thirdly, once you know who you are, you have to learn to celebrate and love that person, all the parts. One of the women I talked to talked about, she's like, I have been in my life an addict, been a grandmother. I've been a yoga teacher. I've been a sex worker. I've been a lot of things. Not all of them are good necessarily, but they all made me me. And so in order to love myself, I have to love all of those parts. So we have to love even the parts that society tells us are wrong, because none of us, you are more than your biggest mistake.
Yeah.
And
I
we are
say that all the
more,
time. Yeah.
yes, yes. And the things, the benign things that society tells us is wrong, like your skin's too dark, you're too fat, you're too, like stuff that doesn't even mean anything. You have to learn to separate all of those things out. The cost of liberation.
Girl,
I mean,
talk about it.
the
Oh,
reality is there are places that it is not safe or wanted to be your full Black woman self. I wish I could tell younger sisters that you could just like walk into the workplace however you want, say whatever you want, and you will get the outcome that you want. But we both have been around long enough to know that's not
yeah.
true.
Yeah.
So part of it is figuring out what you want out of life and what your freedom looks like so that you can make decisions to your own good. So in that chapter, I talked to two women. One, both they're both talking about work. One works in a bank, and she said, I grew up with not a lot of money. I watched my parents struggle. And the reality is, I like my neighborhood. I'm 30 something. I don't have a partner. I want to be a mom one day. I may have to do IVF. It's expensive. I need money. I have a job that pays me really well. And if I have to show up and code switch or whatever, wear a wig, whatever, I'm going to do that. It's fine with me. Talked to another woman who talked about working in finance and how soul crushing it was, and how she tried so hard to fit in, and she code switched and wore the right clothes, and how horribly she gave up her name. She had a lovely longer name that white people always said I can't pronounce it. Well, so she gave up her name. She eventually left and never looked back and is thriving, not in the corporate world. Neither one of them made the wrong decision. It's figuring out what cost you are willing to pay for your freedom.
Wow.
And I can't tell you what that is.
Wow.
Practice of freedom. Freedom isn't, you don't just arrive at freedom and then you're like, I'm free. Our freedom is always challenged and tested.
Every day, 24/7.
Every day, you have to learn how to reset and practice and find yourself back in that space. And then lastly, if I'm going to be free, I have to allow you to be free. And so, that means being able to see you and allow you to make different choices than mine and be okay with that, because I support you and your freedom.
Wow. Wow. And then see free Black women everywhere. Now tell me about this.
So that is understanding that you have the same rights to freedom. So I don't get the right to tell you how to show up.
Okay.
And we learn that a lot. It's kind of the keeping, because I know that people are looking at you and using you as a way to judge me, because that's how it works when you're a member of a marginalized group. And you're always looking to see what that one over there is doing so it doesn't reflect poorly on you. But that's not allowing other women their freedom.
Wow.
Who's she wearing a bonnet? Is she talking like, is she You know, is she making the wrong choices? Is she a single mother? Like, just that you have to allow other women their choices and their
Mm-hmm.
freedom.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that frees you.
Yes.
That it really does free you when you stop looking, when you stop that, you
Yes.
know, because there's a couple of celebrities who have been speaking about Black women disparagingly in a way that I just was so uncomfortable with. I was like, why would you, what is it about that bothers you so much that you think is a reflection of all of us,
Right.
and you in specific, that you must point that out and ridicule it and shame it, right?
And
Like
and
shame.
publicly.
Yes.
Publicly. And it's okay to not like a thing. One of the things I write about in the chapter, you know, the whole issue with Monique and the bonnets and how
Well, that's
she,
what I was talking about, because
right,
she
it
got
was,
on my nerves with
she's
that.
like, I'm a step to any young woman. It's like, why?
Because she didn't like it when people were stepping to her about her weight, right? Remember those early days?
Right,
It's the
right,
same.
right. And I say in the chapter, I mean, I think it's tacky too, but it's none of my business.
And you know what else? I don't have to do that.
I don't have to do it, right? If you don't like it, don't do it. And I also know that when I was 21 or 22, I probably walked outside wearing some crazy stuff as well. I mean, just let women, just give us grace.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
Yes,
when you give another sister grace, guess what happens? It gives you grace too.
exactly.
It gives you
Exactly.
grace. It gives you grace too. It gives you grace too. And so, tell me about these women that you talk to, because it's a very interesting mix of women that you talk to, which I've enjoyed, reading how you know, they pointed things out to you or said whatever. I loved it.
I think, I tried really hard, since my first book, I've been trying really hard to kind of capture the experiences of Black women and all the ways we show up in the world, in terms of age and geography and sexuality and identity and all of those things. So I tried to do that in this book so I made a point of talking to a woman who was in her 20s and just getting out of college. And, I talked to a woman who had just turned 70, two women who had just turned 70, because I think there's so much wisdom we can get from each other and all of
Hmm.
our different walks and experiences. And there were some women that I thought, just because I knew their experiences, that they would have something brilliant to say.
Hmm. Was it hard to talk to these women? Was it easy? There's women everywhere. So, how did you decide who to talk to?
That's the one thing that has been surprising through all my books. It is so easy because I think people don't ask us what we think and what we're experiencing
Yeah.
enough. So
Yeah.
when we do, I'm sure you find this on your radio because all you got to do is ask and open the
Hmm.
door and the stories just come flying out because no one asked. And to be able to answer and talk about those things in a safe space,
Yeah.
if someone
Yeah.
isn't judging you,
Hmm.
I think like women really, really respond to that.
They do. I
Mm.
just came off a retreat. I hosted a 3.5 day retreat for women, mostly Black women, two Latina women and one white woman. And
Uh-huh.
I know these women. So when I knew I was going to launch this day, I knew I wanted to be surrounded with women I already knew and trusted. But what I'm finding, Tammy, and maybe you could talk about this in your next book, is that what happens to us when we get in professional spaces and we don't have anybody to align within those spaces or outside of those spaces, our personal and our private lives. It's hard to separate those things, and
Yeah.
you don't have a support system in place. And I know way too many Black women and women who don't have supportive women to help navigate these professional and personal waters. Girlfriends can do it if you are lucky enough. And I'm finding too, Tammy, there's
Mhm.
a lot of sisters who don't have sister friends.
Which is so sad. So sad. And I think it's a byproduct of, again, all of those distortions, what we have learned about relationships with each other and what we have learned to feel about other Black women sometimes stands in the way. And the idea that if we're not free, if I'm not free, I can't have a free relationship with you.
Wow. So when you were talking to these 70-year-old women,
Mhm.
what did you notice about them and their stories and their affect about where they are in their lives?
I think what I am realizing myself as I get older is that's one of the gifts of getting older is you become more comfortable in your skin,
Hmm.
and you realize that a lot of that worrying, a lot of the things that you did when you were younger was probably unnecessary. A lot of the things you thought were valuable, not really that valuable. And it's hard to remember that it's hard to know that when you're younger. And people always tell, your grandmother tells you, your mother tells you, and you're like, they don't know what they're talking about. But it is awesome to see women who are aging and who feel comfortable in their skin and feel comfortable with their lives, their whole lives, and who they are, and who feel more comfortable setting boundaries and making space for themselves and saying, I don't want it. No, you know?
That's how I'm 61. I turned 61 this year.
Yeah.
I feel way more comfortable in my life and in my body than I have ever in my whole life. You know, I have so much agency and autonomy in ways that I didn't know what I was doing in my 20s and 30s. I just didn't know. And I think about all the struggles. So when you talk to 20-year-olds, Tammy, did you have to refrain from saying, "Oh, don't just," did you advise that, like, because you want to advise them, you'd be like, "Listen, let me save you 20 years
Right.
of therapy time right now."
Well, I think that's the gift, right? So I think we can do that, but we have to figure out how to do it in a loving and vulnerable way, which is what Dear Black Girl was about.
Hmm.
Because I think that's the gift. Like, how awesome for like me in my 50s, you in your 60s, these women in their 70s to be able to give these younger women the gift of all rightness and freedom, and they don't have to wait until they're 50 or 60 or 70 to get there. But now, how we do it is
Yeah.
not walking up to them and telling them about their bonnets in the airport. How we do it is by being vulnerable and honest about our own experiences.
Hmm.
And instead of, approaching them with a don't do this, why not tell your own story? Here's why I'm concerned for you. Here's what I would want for you. Here is what happened to me. I think it's a more powerful way to do that.
Wow. Okay, it sounds like, Tammy, you might have to be doing some workshops.
I'm gonna try.
Like, that sounds like you just have some workshops. You just make people bring you around the town and around the world, the country, and be like, okay, this is how we all gonna get free. Let's have workshop and walk people through this process, because I don't think we hear this enough.
We don't have enough spaces for us. And actually, what I'd like to do once the book is out is, maybe do a week workshop over 6 weeks where, we just with a group of women, even virtually, just work through the chapters of the book together
I
and
like
work through
that.
the exercises
I
and
like
figure
that.
out what freedom looks like independently and what it means to practice freedom and all of those things together. Because it's a practice.
Yes.
It's a practice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so when you were putting, you've got these rituals and you got these do this kinds of things. How did you narrow it down? Are these very personal to you? Or did you just like look out there and be like, okay, all right, they're doing this. I like this. Let me add this. Or are these very personal to you?
Some of them are personal to me and based on the practice I learned through yoga. So I shared some of those things. And I think, for instance, meditation, call it whatever you want, but sitting down, sitting down, breathing, and just being is powerful, whether you call yourself a yogi or not. So
Mm,
I shared some of the things that are important to me, like, meditation and breath work and journaling and moving. but I also encourage women to figure out what it is for them, because it could be one of my friends loves to sit out in the heat. The hotter, the better. I don't know how we're friends because that is not nourishing for me. But that is part of her, that is a self-care ritual for her. She will sit in her chair out on her back porch in the heat, and it's just restorative. So we all need to find those things, even, and one of the things I say, even if you can only do a little bit of it.
Mm-hmm.
If your house is chaos and work is chaos, and you can find 5 minutes in your car to breathe, then take 5 minutes in your car to breathe.
Yes, because you know what I'm noticing, too many of us are having mental health breakdowns and other kinds of health crises because we're just not taking good care. And I'm tired of seeing young sisters having heart attacks and dying, or I'm tired of seeing, sisters ending up in the psych ward, because, for 72 hours because they're just undone. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
that's troublesome to me.
Right. And we don't have time and money not to do those things. I mean, we use time and money often as an excuse, but if you don't have your health, mental and physical, that's rough. So we have to make time for those things where we can get them, and don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. I'm
Yes,
guilty of that too.
I'm
Well,
guilty of it too.
if I can't go to the gym every 5 days a week, then I might as well not do anything.
Right. And when you say it out loud, it sounds insane.
It sounds ridiculous, but we do it all the time.
If we can stop doing that, I swear that, listen, if we can stop doing that one thing right there, that would be amazing. Imagine if we was like, okay, I can't go every day, but maybe I could go one day.
Or maybe I could just go walk around the block. Can't meditate I don't have time to meditate for 20, 30 minutes. Well, how about 1 minute?
Yeah.
About one,
So what was your favorite part of thinking about this book and then seeing it put into the universe? What is your favorite thing about this?
Well, my favorite thing is always talking to Black women. So the part of the interviews, like that, that's just always, I love that part of the books that I do. And then the other was kind of realizing, kind of coming up with the steps to liberation. It was really, that part was really powerful. When I'm sitting and I'm writing, like, what would the journey be? And those came surprisingly easily. And I was like, ooh, like, you get impressed with yourself. You're like, oh, that was just a download from the universe. And then the third thing that was awesome, I actually got the opportunity to test some of this at Bennett College in Greensboro, North Carolina.
I know, so my daughter went.
She did?
My daughter's a Bennett Belle.
You are kidding. Oh my gosh. I loved Bennett. For those who don't know, it's a historically Black women's college. So Suzanne Walsh, the president, invited me down. I got a chance to do some of these things with the Bennett Bells and the staff and the students there. Oh my gosh, I love them so much.
It's a great space. It's a great space. So I love that liberation journey. And so when you think about this, did you learn some other things that you're like, you know what, I could have added this, or I just learned a new thing. Wow. And then you get to talk about it. So did you have those kinds of moments?
I think the bigger thing is, like, I'm happy with what's in the book, but every time I talk to a new woman, like, around the book, I'm like, ooh, I wish I could put that story in there. Or I wish there were more room for women's stories. Cause I like to talk about stuff. But the impactful part is women's stories and seeing all the different ways Black women find their ways to freedom.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I love it. This book is very powerful. You know, when I just saw the cover, I really thought it was going to be like this ridiculously big book. I was like, oh Lord, this is going to be an epic summer read. And I was pleasantly surprised. I can put this in my handbag.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, no one's going to go on a freedom journey if it's like the size of War and Peace. You may not. If you're not making time to go to the gym, you're probably not going to make time for a 1,000-page book. But I do want it to be easy because it's simple, but it's hard.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I love the font because I'm a woman of a certain age. So I love, like, these are the things I notice now because sometimes I got to get a large print, and I love that it's easy to read. And I love that each chapter you give us what to do, what to consider, what to think about. And I find that to be very helpful because oftentimes self-help books can leave you adrift, like I'm gonna give you the tools. Now you go out into the ocean and do your thing. You giving us the tools and a life jacket. Like, don't go drown. Just like
I don't want you to just ponder freedom. I want you to actually do it. I want you to actually get there.
I love it. So does a workbook come with this afterwards? Like just purely a workbook, or does this do it all for you?
Ooh, hey publisher, did you hear what Babz just said?
Because you know how people like their own, like we'd love to have a Tammy Winfrey Harris journal workbook where we
I love that idea. Well, there's not one in the works, but I do love that idea. I feel like there's a lot of extension. You have a workbook, you could have like cards that, kind of remind you of some of those things. Yeah, I really want to find other ways to help women put the steps in the book into practice.
Yes. And I'm tactile. So I like a workbook. I like cards, you know what I mean? Oracle cards. I've got the Nat Ministry sleep deck, whatever.
Me
rest
too.
Deck. And I used that on my retreat. I was like, and I gave all the women one. I was like, child.
Yeah.
And you read it and it's just like, and she's very like in your face, kind of like, rest is abolition. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
Okay. And it's a real wake-up call because you read that stuff, just like this book, you read this stuff and you're like, oh, I'm not freeing myself. I'm not liberating myself. I am not being my authentic self. I am dancing to somebody else's rhythm and it's killing me.
Yeah. It's kind of like we need to get to the point, which is why those freedom rituals at the beginning, where we can even hear what our rhythm is,
Yeah. And that goes back, Tammy, to what you said about, if you can't meditate for 30 minutes, 1 minute, so you can hear yourself.
Right. Listen,
so you can hear yourself.
Hear yourself. Yes.
Yes. And too many of us are not hearing ourselves until we're being, run to the hospital, to the emergency room because we can't breathe.
Because we don't know, we don't know what we want. We don't know what freedom looks like for us. We only know what people have told us we should be and what we should be doing.
Mm-hmm. You need a playlist for this too, Tammy.
Yes.
You need a playlist of some good music, and you're a yogi, so all that yogi music, and then some soul music, all that. You need a playlist.
You just inspired me. I'm about to this week. I'm going to crowdsource a playlist.
You should.
A freedom playlist.
A freedom Get free.
I need to hire you as my publicist.
I just know the things that I like. I like a good playlist because when you get a book like this, you go like, okay, now I need to listen to this. Who am I listening to? I'm listening to somebody. I'm gonna put on some Minnie Riperton. I'm gonna put on somebody, and I'm gonna get right, and
Ooh,
breathe and all the things. So
there could be a playlist for each genre that you enjoy. Like
yes,
like an R&B soul freedom playlist, a little rock pop playlist.
yes. And I want to hear what these young sisters listen to. Like, how do they? Because everything
Yes.
I hear of their music, I hate. So if they so if they can identify some music that can help me get free and they're free, I think that's a nice intergenerational kind of
I
thing.
love it.
I mean, you've got a I Choose Me playlist in here, but it'd be nice to ask people, what do you I asked that for my retreat, what music lifts you and what music puts you into a contemplative place. Because Tam, we do. You got music to clean up on Saturday mornings. You got you got your Sunday music if you ain't going to church, but you still want some of that.
I always ask people, what's your sound, what's your walk-on music? Like if you were in a movie and when your first appearance, when you walk on this, like, what is that song?
Oh, I love that.
It's like strut. So like, okay, now I'm dating myself, like John Travolta.
Yes.
Saturday Night Fever, he's walking like what is your strut music?
I love it. I need my own band when I hit the street.
Right.
I'm telling you, I'm still on Mary J. Blige's Fine, Fine, Fine. Like, I just think that's the right rhythm, right? The right beat. And it's just like, I love it. And the words are perfect. I was like, okay, I'm gonna rock that for a minute. I like that. So yeah. Tammy, it's been lovely talking to you. And I could talk to you forever and ever and ever. I gotta ask you though, because I know authors and artists, they're always working on the next thing. I know we're here in this moment, but I know there might be something else. You don't gotta tell me, but you could tell me.
So here's what I challenged myself to do this year. Like I am really good. Well, I'm really good at writing nonfiction. Yes, I am. I feel really comfortable writing nonfiction. And I want to try my hand at fiction this year.
Like a romance novel?
I don't know what that's going to look like. I've always wanted to write a genre novel. I love like horror. Like I'd love to write like a horror, but centered on like Black people. Your romance, like, some kind of genre fiction. I don't know what that looks like for me.
But I think you do well at it.
Yeah.
I think that's a nice challenge. Although I'm not a horror person. I think real life is scary enough. But I do like a good romance, particularly that's one that's of seasoned people, not
or like I love a
mystery.
Cozy mystery. I love like Agatha Christie and Miss Marple. Like,
who done it?
A good who done it.
I don't think there's any out there like that. Like are Black folks writing who done it? I don't know. I gotta go look.
I gotta keep writing books because it feels like that's the only time I get to talk to you. So I'm gonna hurry up with this next one so I can get invited back.
Listen, this door is always open. This is your platform. Consider this your platform. And we have to make some time to talk offline so we can catch up. Not like, not have it be like before the pandemic. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm trying to get invited onto your porch.
Oh, come through, Tammy. I would love to have you. Oh my God. We can have a whole salon. drink some good drinks and talk some talk. Oh, girl, that would be like a dream come true. Right. Now, where are you? Are you in Ohio? Where are you?
Indiana.
I knew it was somewhere in the Midwest.
A little further.
Yes, Indiana. So, yeah, come on through. That's just a flight. Get on a flight. I know you got to come east at some point.
Hop, skip, and a jump. My husband is from New Jersey, so we make it over there.
See.
Make it out east.
Yes. Oh, and my sister lives in Jersey, so listen, that's an easy peasy treat. And the Northeast is close, so you can get anywhere from New York to Jersey to Boston within hours. So, That's not a hard thing. So I've enjoyed this. You are one of my favorite folks out there in these internets. And I love the work that you're doing. I think this book is a wonderful complement to the other two books. And I have those two. So I would encourage anybody. And I think what I'm gonna do is when I do the next retreat, I'm going to add this to the retreat gift swag bag.
I love it. Thank
I think this
you.
is, and had I saw this before I ordered the books that I ordered, this would have been in there too. Like I would have ordered those and this, because I think this is well worth having and something easy that women can put their hands on and do the work for their own selves. Get Free, everybody. A Black Woman's Guide to Getting Free by Tamara Winfrey Harris, and author of The Sisters Are All Right and Dear Black Girl. Such a joy to talk to you.
Thank you, my friend.
You kicked off my week right.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Miss Winfrey Harris. I will talk to you soon.
Appreciate you. All
right, my dear. Thank you so much. Harry, put some good music on. I shall be right back in 15 minutes. Y'all hang out.